Tua has the most 2 interception games in the NFL since 2022. Ocho, this is why I tell you, quarterbacks, keep your mouth shut. Now, we're going to have a conversation about your guy in Tennessee. Now, you remember your guy in Tennessee, that's why you keep your mouth shut.
Yes, sir.
Now, back to Tua, Ocho.
Hold on.
I'm going to hear what you said. That's your team. The Miami Guppies are your team.
Listen,
go ahead.
Listen, to it, when you stand tall with your head high and you hold other people accountable and tell us about things that are going on in your house, a house where we don't have the key to, so it's no way for us to know what's going on. And that C on your chest, as that captain, you have to always be front and center and being the one to be playing at your best. You got to be playing at your very best.
The Dolphins didn't just lose. They got embarrassed, humiliated, outplayed in every way imaginable. The Cleveland Browns, yes, the same Browns many had counted out weeks ago, dismantled Miami, 31-6, and in the middle of the wreckage stood Tua Tagovailoa, shell-shocked and exposed. 12 completions on 23 attempts, 100 yards total, no touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. A passer rating of 20-4. It wasn't just bad football. It was a meltdown on national television. And right after Tua's recent comments mocking Shedeur Sanders and throwing shade at the Browns' defense, this loss felt like poetic justice. Because as Shannon Sharpe said on Nightcap, this is why I tell quarterbacks to keep your mouth shut. Now, let's get one thing straight. When you wear that C on your chest, when you walk into that locker room as the leader of men, you don't just carry a football, you carry the soul of your franchise. And if you're going to talk about accountability, you'd better be playing like it. But Tua wasn't. Chad Johnson put it plain. You can't be talking up here, but playing down there. He was supposed to be the captain, the calm in the storm. Instead, he became the eye of the hurricane. And you could feel the frustration in Ocho's voice. That disappointment, not just from losing, but from the kind of loss that makes teammates question everything. Miami didn't even look competitive, and Tyreek Hill, no spark, no fight. And the Browns didn't have to do much. The Dolphins handed them short fields, pick sixes, turnovers. As Shannon said, you praise in public and you chastise behind closed doors. But Tua? He flipped that rule upside down. He tried to hold others accountable, calling out teammates for things happening behind closed doors. But when Sunday came, he wasn't the answer, he was the problem. And when the man who's supposed to inspire confidence becomes the reason you lose, it doesn't just hurt your record, it fractures the locker room. Because leadership isn't about how loud you speak, it's about how well you play when it matters most. Ocho was heated, and he said it straight. You pulled your pants down 2 weeks in a row and took a dump on the field. And as wild as that sounds, he wasn't wrong. Tua followed up one disaster with another. 3 picks 1 week, 3 more the next. How do you come back from that as a leader? Shannon's tone shifted from anger to disbelief. He reminded everyone that accountability doesn't mean blaming the media or twisting words. When Tua said the media spun his comments, he wasn't taking responsibility, he was avoiding it. And you could hear the disappointment in Shannon's voice. I thought you were sorry because you were taking accountability, but that's not what you did. This wasn't just about bad football, it was about arrogance, the kind that blinds quarterbacks from seeing the mirror. Tua's play didn't just hurt his team, it made his apology meaningless. You can't talk leadership on Wednesday and throw 3 picks on Sunday. That's not accountability, that's hypocrisy. And then came the real gut punch. Ocho, a lifelong Dolphins fan, admitted what Miami fans have feared for years. He said, "We don't even have a chance to compete." That's not frustration, that's resignation. A man who bleeds aqua and orange, finally ready to admit it's over. The Browns didn't dominate Miami with offensive fireworks. They simply didn't need to, because when your quarterback gifts the other team possessions, touchdowns, and hope, the scoreboard writes its own story. Shannon summed it up best. It's hard to overcome bad quarterback play. And Tua's play was as bad as it gets.
Y'all know who I am. I'm one who really, rarely, very, very rarely talks about people, but he's now in a position where he's doing the Dolphins more harm than good. Regardless of how much you pay him. Yes. I know we think he's making 45, maybe 50 million a year, but what we right now.
You gotta eat that. He ain't the answer.
He's not the answer. As much as I love him to death. You know, you're putting this in harm's way, and you want your quarterback to be the one person you don't have to worry about. Okay, we don't have to worry about the quarterback. We can build around here and address all the other areas where we need to improve. But if the area is the quarterback position, where the problem is, well, goddamn, you really can't go. You can't go no goddamn where, because that's where everything starts.
It starts with him, Ocho. You remember when they fired Brian Flores and Tua got up there and said, you know, it was tough coming to work every day because he was so critical. It was always someone else.
And that's where the conversation took a darker turn, because UNC and Ocho didn't stop at criticism. They started talking replacement. Shannon asked the question every Dolphins fan has whispered. Where do we go from here? Chris Greer, Stephen Ross, Mike McDaniel, all staring at a quarterback crisis they can't afford to ignore. Even Ocho, one of Tua's biggest defenders, finally broke. As much as I love Tua, he said, I have to be critical. He's doing the Dolphins more harm than good. And that right there? That's the sound of loyalty dying in real time. When a former player like Ochocinco, who's been in the trenches, admits that your quarterback isn't the answer, that hits different. Because these aren't sports analysts. These are men who lived it. They know what bad leadership feels like from inside a locker room. Shannon piled on. He reminded everyone that when Brian Flores coached the Dolphins, he was labeled as too harsh, too critical. But now, every single thing Flores said about Tua, about his attitude, his inconsistency, his leadership, it's all coming true, and Shannon made sure to twist the knife. It's funny how everything Brian Flores said is actually true. Because time doesn't lie, it just reveals what the truth was all along. And that's the truth Miami can't run from anymore. Tua Tagovailoa isn't that guy, he's not the savior, he's not the answer. Ocho said it plain, you can't be both the problem and the answer. And right now, Tua looks like both. But here's the real question. How long can the Dolphins keep pretending this is fine? How long can they keep backing a quarterback who keeps sinking their season deeper with every interception? What do you think? Should the Dolphins finally move on from Tua after this embarrassment? Or do you still believe he can bounce back? Drop your thoughts below, because this one's about to get ugly. Because this isn't just a bad game. It might be the night the Miami Dolphins finally lost faith in Tua Tagovailoa. When Shannon Sharpe and Ochocinco talk football, it's not just barbershop talk. It's gospel that they've lived through locker room politics, quarterback collapses, and the unspoken truth of what happens when the franchise loses faith in its leader. And on this night, after that brutal 31-6 loss, both men sounded like they'd seen this movie before. Because this isn't new. The Miami Dolphins have been here, overhyped, overconfident, under-delivering, and every single time, it comes back to the same question. Is Tua really built for this? Shannon didn't mince words that he said, you can't elevate players when you're still trying to prove you belong. And that line hit harder than any sack Tua took that night. Because that's exactly what separates the greats, Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, even rookies like Shedeur Sanders who command respect the moment they step on the field. They make others better, but right now, Tua can't even make himself better. You can't be the face of a franchise when your teammates are losing faith in your reflection. Ocho tried to soften the blow. You could tell he wanted to defend Tua, he wanted to find some silver lining. But when Shannon pressed him, asking if Tua could still lead the Dolphins to a playoff run, Chad hesitated, and that pause said everything. Because even he knows, this team isn't playing for January anymore. They're fighting for pride. And then Shannon did what he always does best. He told the uncomfortable truth. You can't keep blaming the offensive line, he said. You can't keep blaming the weather, or the receivers, or the media at some point. You gotta look in the mirror and say, I'm the problem. That's what accountability looks like. And that's what Tua's been missing since the moment this season started spiraling. The truth is, this wasn't just a one-off bad game. That it was the breaking point to back-to-back disasters, a 31-6 blowout, and a quarterback who looks more lost than ever. Miami's playoff hopes didn't just take a hit, they flatlined. And the more Shannon and Ocho broke it down, the clearer it became. This isn't just about Tua, that it's about culture. Because when your leader plays scared, the locker room plays scared. When your quarterback stops believing, everyone stops believing. And that's what we're watching in Miami right now. a slow-motion collapse of confidence. The Dolphins aren't losing games anymore. They're losing belief. Shannon threw in one last dagger. Do you realize Shedeur Sanders, a rookie, looks more composed than Tua right now? And the studio fell silent. Because that wasn't shade, it was fact. Shedeur has been calm, efficient, confident, exactly what Tua was supposed to be by now. Ocho sighed and nodded. He said, "You know what, maybe Tua's ceiling is just this." And when Ocho says that, you know the hope is gone. This isn't hate, it's heartbreak. Because for years, Miami fans wanted to believe Tua was that guy, the chosen one, that the one who'd make them forget Tannehill, Henne, and all those years of mediocrity. But now, they're realizing he's just another name on a long list of almosts. And what hurts most is how fast it's all falling apart. Ocho brought it back to leadership again. When you're the quarterback, your job isn't just to throw the ball. It's to give people hope. But right now, Tua's taking that away. You could see the disappointment in his eyes. This wasn't about stats, it was about soul. Quarterbacks don't just throw touchdowns. They carry the faith of a city. And Miami's faith is gone. Then came the kicker. Shannon posed the question no one wanted to ask. Would you bench him? Ocho hesitated again, then took a deep breath. If it keeps going like this, he said, you have to. That's when it hit. The idea of benching Tua Tagovailoa, the supposed savior, the 5th overall pick, on national TV. That's not just a demotion, that's a death sentence for an era. And yet, after the last 2 weeks, how can you argue against it? 3 picks 1 week, 3 the next, barely crossing midfield. Looking defeated before the second quarter even ends. At some point, even loyalty has limits. Ocho leaned back and said it plain, football's cruel, man. It don't wait for you to figure it out. And that's the truth. The NFL doesn't do sympathy. It does results. In this league, you're not judged by what you promise, you're judged by what you deliver. And right now, Tua's delivering heartbreak. Shannon wrapped it up with a sermon. This is what happens when you talk like a champion before you play like one. That the game humbles everybody, and tonight, it humbled Tua. That's the kind of line that sticks. Because Shannon's not just speaking to Tua, he's speaking to every young quarterback who thinks leadership starts at the podium. It doesn't. It starts on the field, in the huddle, in the quiet moments after a loss when you face the mirror and tell yourself the truth. And for Tua, that truth is brutal. He's running out of excuses, that he's running out of believers. And if he keeps running from accountability, he'll be running out of Miami too. The Dolphins don't need speeches, they need salvation. As the Nightcap segment closed, the final image said it all. Shannon shaking his head, Ocho staring at the floor, and no jokes. No laughter. Just silence. Because some losses say more than the scoreboard ever could. This wasn't just 31-6, this was the night the Miami Dolphins reality finally caught up to their hype. This was the night the Tua era cracked under the weight of its own promises. And for fans watching, it's starting to feel inevitable. The end is near. That a quarterback once called the future is suddenly fighting for his present. Ocho summed it up best in one last line before the segment ended. You can't fake greatness. Either you got it, or you don't. And right now, Miami's realizing their quarterback might not have it. So as the lights dimmed and the credits rolled, you could feel it, that uneasy truth floating over South Beach. This isn't just a bad stretch, that it's the beginning of a reckoning. The Dolphins believed in Tua. They built around him, defended him, marketed him as the heart of the franchise. But hearts can break, and tonight, the Dolphins did. So what's next for Miami? Do they double down on faith, or finally face the truth? Whatever happens next, one thing's for sure. Shannon Sharpe and Chad Ochocinco won't hold back. Because in this league, talk is cheap, but accountability, that costs everything. If you think Tua can bounce back, let us know in the comments. But if you believe it's time for Miami to move on, sound off below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because this is Gridiron Insights, where the truth hits harder than a linebacker.